Grandpa, where were you born?
I was born in Washington, Michigan.
Washington.
It's farm country.
Farm country. Oh, so you lived on a farm, right?
Yes, I did.
How was living on the farm?
Well, we had 364 acres, and we did a lot of planting of potatoes, corn, wheat, and rye. We also had a gravel pit that we used to sell gravel to the state to. They used to pay us $1 a load. Now that was a lot of money back then. The gasoline was 10 cents a gallon.
Did you have any chores that you did around the farm?
Oh yes, I know I did some field work. We did weeding, but we also had we were growing 14 acres of potatoes, and that was my job to watch the growth of that and then replenish it after it was grown.
Were you the youngest or oldest of your family?
I was the oldest in my family. My sister was next, and then my brother Bill.
How long did your mother and father own the farm?
This is my grandparents' farm. I lived with my grandparents.
Oh.
For some couple of years during the Depression years.
During the Depression?
Yeah, during the Depression. I went to school. School was about 2 miles away from the farm, and it was all walking. No transportation. We had to walk to and from, even in the wintertime when the snow was a couple of feet deep.
What was it like living through the Depression? Like
it was tough. It was hard. There wasn't much money around, and even in my folks' home that were living in Detroit at the time, people were walking, especially men, were walking door to door asking for a slice of bread. They figure if they got a slice of bread here and a slice of bread there, they'd be able to make a meal. So there was no food around.
Were there any actual jobs that you worked at or did?
My first job was selling newspapers. I was on a corner of 14th and Warren Avenue in Detroit.
Was this before or after the Depression?
This is still the Depression coming out.
This is during the Depression?
Yeah, it was still coming out. It was moving slow, but it was coming out. This is back in the year of 1934.
What did you do with the money that you earned?
Everything I earned I gave to my parents.
Why?
That was the tradition back then. It helped to maintain the family.
How long did you do that? How long did you do that for? How long did you earn the money and give it to your parents?
I did that until the first week that I got married. I was 21 years old then.
And you gave it all to your mom, all the money that you've earned?
I gave all my money. And when I wanted to go out on a date or something, I asked my mother for some money to spend.
Were there any other jobs that you worked for?
I worked 4 years with a lumber company, and that's what I was doing before I went into the service.
When did you decide to go into the service?
That was in June 1942.
Hey, Dad, what'd you do when you worked at Courier Lumber?
I drove truck. First I started out in the yard, but within a year they gave me a job driving truck.
Uh-huh. And what are some of the things that when you drove truck, you had to unload?
We hauled all builder supplies.
Oh.
I worked with builder supplies. There was a lumber yard, but I didn't handle lumber hardly at all. They had special vehicles for that.
Yeah.
And the vehicle that I had was for hauling builder supplies, brick and cement and plaster, all heavy stuff.
All the heavy stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you had to carry a lot of loads, how did you carry them? I mean, did you have wheelbarrows? Did you have?
Well,
you didn't have forklifts back then.
Some of the items that we did, like plaster and sheetrock for inside, we had to carry that inside the building.
Right.
We backed up as close as we could to the building and carried it in.
Yeah. Didn't you have to double up?
And then the cement we stacked outside and then covered it up with cloth.
Oh, okay. Going way back when you were selling papers, what corner was that on?
14th and Warren Avenue.
Yeah.
The last time I was there was actually not a person in sight. Now this used to be an interchange for streetcars, and it was a very busy corner. But the last time I was there was no one there, not in any direction. There was no cars in any direction, and it felt weird. Later I learned that the area was actually all bulldozed down, nothing but dirt.
Yeah. Didn't you have a customer that used to buy the paper off of you and then sell it back?
Yeah. He came in Sunday mornings, and the paper was 10 cents. So he came in and bought the paper from me and then walked across the street to the restaurant and had his breakfast. Then when he got through with the breakfast, he'd walk back over to me, sell me back the paper for a nickel. So that was pretty good because I got a nickel per paper. That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, sure is. How long did you sell papers around that corner?
For about 2 years. In fact, I lived on that corner too. There was a tailor shop, and we lived over the tailor shop in what they call a flat, an apartment. And the tailor shop used to give me 50 cents a month to go down into their basement and bring up a bucket of coal. The woman's husband was an invalid and in a chair, and he couldn't do that, so she paid me 50 cents a month to bring the coal up for the stove in the shop.
Yeah. How did you end up getting that job? Just by working the corner?
I lived over top the tailor shop, and people knew me.
Oh. All right.
50 cents a month. Can you imagine? That was a lot of money.
You gave that to your mom?
Yeah. Back then, that's when the theaters were a dime. 25 cents in an elaborate theater, but the regular theaters were 10 cents.
And during the Depression, when you guys had a car, didn't you? And
later on, my next job was working for Western Union.
Yeah.
And that was delivering telegrams on a bicycle.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in those years, we didn't have a lot of money, but my Uncle Oscar put the bicycle on the charge, and I used to pay him monthly for the bicycle.
Oh. So you paid him back?
I paid him back, yeah. I really.
After the Courier Lumber days, they ended up closing after a period of time?
Yeah, the war shut them down for good. They had 3 yards, and they shut down the one in Royal Oak and the one on Schaefer Road where I worked. The one on Van Dyke they kept open, but they finally sold it to a group of people.
Yeah. So the war ultimately got them down?
The war put them out of business.
Yeah. Did the war hurt a lot of companies back then?
Yeah, because you couldn't get anything. Everything's being used in the war.
Right.
All metals, all wood.
All of our resources?
Yeah, all resources were being used in the war.
Yeah. So you ended up in the war. How'd that happen?
In the war?
Yeah, how did you signed up?
I already got a draft classification, and so I would have been one of the first ones being drafted.
Oh.
So I decided to enlist.
Right. And your brother Bill did too, didn't he?
It was a lucky break for me because it kept me alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And where are some of the places that during the war that you were at?
Yeah, we had, actually they weren't real careful. I was in the Air Force, and they were sending people out. We had one fella couldn't see without glasses.
Yeah.
They put him to work with me. I was in charge of aircraft sheet metal repair.
Right.
And they put him to work with me. I was storing some sheet metal up on a rafter. I told him to go up and get it down, and he got up there and he fell down because he can't stand heights.
Oh.
He's in the Air Force and he can't stand heights.
Yeah, right.
He can't see.
Right.
with his glasses.
You ended up in World War II. What are some of the places that you went that you had traveled to?
My first place that I went to was England. We got there in August and left there in November for North Africa for the African invasion. So that was in the Mediterranean area where I went. I went to the country of Oran, and from there we worked over to the Casablanca, then back over to Kasserine Pass area. But we stayed with the front line. When they moved, we moved.
Right. What about Sicily and any of those other places?
We went to Sicily, in our area when we went into the Gela and the town of Catania. Then from there we went into southern Italy and all the way up Italy to the last town we were at was Rosignano, and that's in northern Italy.
What were the conditions like? I know you had the tents and some of your friends. Who were some of your friends?
Oh, I slept on the ground for 2 years.
Did you?
Yeah, there was a few areas where I could have used a cot, but it was warmer sleeping on the ground.
Really?
Yeah.
What were some of your friends that you had in the service?
I worked with two guys, Max Bramer and Laverne Kelly.
Yeah.
And they've been gone now for several years.
Right. So, what were some of the things that you guys did? You had a cat. Didn't you find a cat and a motorcycle?
Oh, Kelly built a motorcycle out of German aircraft parts.
Yeah.
And he picked up an engine from a damaged German motorcycle. And he built this motorcycle with the cart on the side. And one of his days he was going to a village to take his clothes to be laundered. And on the way back, he picked up a Italian soldier that was hitchhiking.
Yeah.
And he started heading back to the camp, and he says, the last time I seen that soldier, he says, he was doing 60 miles an hour across the field. The sidecar came loose. The last time I seen him, he was going 60 miles an hour across that field.
So the Italian was in the sidecar?
The Italian was in the sidecar.
And the sidecar came loose?
Unhooked.
Unhooked?
Yeah.
And the Italian ended up flying through a field at 60 miles an hour? Huh?
I imagine he went back and picked him up, but to make it funny, he said the last time I seen him, he was going across that field 60 miles an hour.
That's funny. All right, so coming out of the war, you came home, and where'd you come back to? Detroit?
I came back to Detroit. I went to school nights for 3 years studying electronics. And while I was going to school, I was working days for Revere Copper and Bass, and I was repairing their extrusion dies.
Yeah. And what are those? What they use those in?
That was those dies. All these bars and pieces of shapely metal that you see is what we were producing.
Oh, I see.
They had these red hot billets. They put them on a compressor and push them through the dies, the metal through the dies, and it came out and formed into shape.
Oh, I see. Like Play-Doh machine.
Like handrails,
yeah.
Bars that you see in banks and stuff.
Yeah.
And they made of metal.
Right. And then you worked for Western Southern?
Yeah, I worked for Western Southern for 19 years.
Is that where you met Jack Bordeaux?
Jack Bordeaux, yeah. He worked on it from Toledo, and we used to work, and I was in Dearborn, Michigan, and our offices used to get together and pound doors, trying to build up a little bit of business.
Yeah.
And then Jack Bordeaux, he came here to Arizona about a month before I did. He was a good fellow. He joined the Air National Guard, and when he died, he was still with them.
Still with the Guard?
Yeah.
You were telling us one time a story about how your dad was going to the bathroom and saw a ghost in the house.
Oh yeah, this was when I lived on Cliff Street. We lived in a flat overhead of the lower apartment, and in fact, my mother and I also seen an incident there. We were standing in the hallway, and there was an entrance into the kitchen, and we were standing in front of the entrance. And a shadowy figure come up from downstairs. It came up, being as we were living in the flat, there was a staircase between the upper flat and downstairs. And this shadowy figure, it looked almost like a human, came up the stairs, just floating through the air, and went across the long hallway into the living room and disappeared. And in that same building, one night, we were laying there sleeping, and my dad yelled, "Margaret, Margaret, come here and see this." And he was awful scared, and it woke me up, and I got up out of bed too. And he was looking in the bathroom, and over the toilet, the bathroom lights were out, and our hallway lights were out. So here over this toilet, we were seeing two eyes, two glaring eyes. And this is my dad seen it, my mom seen it, and I seen it.
Right.
And we went back into my mother's bedroom, and we came back out to look again, and it was gone.
Pretty spooky.
We don't know what it was, and it was up high enough to where it had to be like a person sitting there, because this was an old-fashioned toilet, and the water tank was up on a ceiling, so there was no water tank in back the toilet.
Oh, I see. Just a pipe coming down.
These eyes were high enough to be almost like a person sitting there.
Sitting there.
So we thought, well, maybe it might have been the neighbor downstairs cat. But we don't know for sure. But my dad was so scared, my dad's face was all white.
Yeah. When you were on the farm as a child, didn't you go squirrel hunting?
Oh yeah, I always did it. We had 2 sections of acres of woods, and about 100 and some acres. And I used to go squirrel hunting. In fact, we had black squirrels there, but I didn't shoot them. I loved animals.
Right. What about cows or pigs or anything like that?
Yeah, we had 9 head of cattle. We had 4 horses. We had a tractor. Didn't use the tractor because that used gas, so we used the horses.
Mm-hmm. And
in fact, we had a Model T Ford, and to save money, we used to start it up with gasoline and then run it on kerosene.
Kerosene was less expensive?
Yeah, well, gas was 10 cents a gallon. That was a lot of money back then.
Right.
In fact, we used to sell potatoes. We'd haul potatoes to Michigan, to Detroit, and sell them at the market, and we used to get 60 cents a bushel for them.
Right. That's pretty good money.
That was good money, yeah.
Did you do any bartering in between farms? Did you do any bartering or trades in between farms?
Well, we had a truck that my Uncle Al used to haul sugar beets to his factory for another farmer, and actually back then, even on potatoes, when we would take potatoes to the market, we were getting 65 cents a bushel.
What about some of the girls that you dated?
Didn't date any girls back then.
You didn't date any girls back then?
Not during the real early years, until I was about 15 or 16.
Oh, yeah. A lot of girlfriends?
I had a lot of friends. Yes, I did.
So what brought you out to Arizona?
My brother Bill. I hadn't seen him I hadn't seen him for several years because I was overseas, and the day that I came home, he left for the Marines, so I didn't get to see him for several years. So I said, well, I came down here and I liked what I seen. The homes were reasonable, and I figured, well, if I'm living pretty good in Michigan, I should be able to do good here.
Yeah.
But I found out that jobs were a little tougher to get here.
Yeah. How long did it take you to find a job here?
Well, when I came down with the insurance company, so I had a job, but they were supposed to have a debit for me, and they didn't have it when I got down here.
Oh.
So I struggled for a while, and then I went to work for Fry's. Worked up to store manager. Lost my job with Fry's because I was too old. If I didn't want anybody over 42, and I was in my 50s.
Right.
So they found a way to terminate you.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was out of work for 6 months then. Before I got another job with another grocery chain.
Right. You eventually owned your own business.
I had a TV service business on the side in Detroit for quite a few years.
Right. And then out here in Phoenix, you had the nursery. And then you helped me grow my business, the printing.
I helped in the printing business.
Yeah. I remember
until I was 80 years old, and my back gave out.
Right. I remember that when I was working the beginning part of the business, that I asked you, I called you up, I says, Dad, I need your help for about a week or so. Then a week turned into 2 weeks, into a month, into 10 years.
10 years, yeah. Then my back gave out.
And each year Dad says, I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
I'm going to retire. I need to retire this year. I'd say, Dad, okay. First of the year, I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
And the first year would come around, and
that's what kept me living so long, is I kept working, kept active, and kept the body in shape.
Sure.
And that and the aspirin.
1 aspirin a day?
Yeah, I used to take 1 or 2 aspirin a day.
Remember all the equipment we used to buy for the printing business?
Yeah, yeah.
You were like my personal banker. I'd say, Dad, I need a piece of equipment. How much money do we got? Oh, we got enough, you'd say. So I'd borrow the money, then I'd pay you back.
Yeah. Quite a few times.
Yeah. Paid you back each time.
Yep.
And then you started getting so involved with the business, you would come to me and you'd say, Kurt, I think we need this piece of equipment.
And we got it.
And we got it, and we grew the business.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. All right.
Helped for a better life.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
So how you like it here on the property?
It's pretty good.
Good living?
Yeah, good living.
Sunday dinners?
Yeah, good food. Hard work, good food.
Yeah. What do you think of the boys?
Yeah, they're getting pretty big.
Yeah.
They're growing pretty fast.
What are your thoughts about Joshua?
I told him to study hard, get good marks. That's what gets you places.
Is he a thinker?
You got his thinking all the time.
Yeah.
Likes building things with his hands.
Yeah. What do you think about Ethan?
He's going to be a good football player. He's a good defense man.
Sure.
He's got the temperament for it.
Yeah. Is he a negotiator or what is he?
Yeah, he's a talker. He don't stop.
Yeah.
When he gets going, he's like a machine gun.
Sure. Loves to talk about things, doesn't he?
Yeah. I got my little friend here, Riley.
Yeah, she's a good dog, isn't she?
Yeah, she's tops.
Yeah.
Good temperament.
Yeah.
Smart. Sensitive.
Yeah. Well, we forget anything?
We about got everything, haven't we?
All right. You want to say goodbye?
Bye for now. Take care. See you in heaven.